Hey guys, and welcome back to another Unfiltered Gamer board game review for the game Reputation by Dan Kobayashi, Ninja Star Games. The game plays 3 to 5 players, takes 45 minutes to play, and is for ages 13 and up. And in the game Reputation, you are going to be utilizing your CEO and organization or corporation to gather credits, and also not be the lowest corporation in the reputation sector. If at the end of the game you have the most credits and not the lowest reputation, you are the winner of the game. Pretty straightforward, simple game with a lot of intrigue. Let's take a look at setup. To set up a game of Reputation, you will decide between 3, 4, or 5 player games. If you're playing a 3-player game, which is what I have here as an example, then you're going to give every single player a player board. You're also going to be giving them a random CEO and organization. They do not have to be the same color. You can choose to mix and match them up as you choose. Additionally, based on the number of players, you're going to be giving them workers. In a 3-player game, you'll get 10. However, in a larger player game, you'll get less workers. Then, take the public sector and private sector decks, shuffle them separately, take out cards until there are only 10 remaining, and place them next to each other, along with their corresponding tokens. Set aside the first player marker, set aside the credits and the reputation, and then you are basically ready to begin the game. Select a player to go first, and that is all you need in order to set up the game. The rest of the extra characters, corporations, and any player boards or meeples will be set aside for a later game. Okay, so we've set up the game now and selected a first player. And the first thing you're going to do in the round is return any workers on any projects to your board here. If you don't have any, like for instance in the first round, you're simply going to skip this step. Next step is you're going to reveal new projects. So that player who has the first player marker will simply slip a private sector over and a public sector over, just like this. And then they're going to go ahead and place credits on the public sector equal to the amount represented on the top right-hand side. And in this case, it's going to be 12. After you've done that job is done. Now, based on turn order, players are going to choose to bid. And starting with the first player here, they can choose to bid on either of the two locations, the public or the private sector. If you want to bid on the public sector, you need to pay the amount of meeples equal or represented to by this location here on the top right-hand side. However, if you want to play on the private sector, you can place any number of meeples down. However, at the beginning of the round, if you place meeples on here and there's no credits on there, you might be left with just negative reputation at the end of the game. Red player is going to simply choose to take their 2 workers and place them on the public sector project. From there, that player can choose any number of credits on this location and move it over to the private sector project. The reason why they do that is because if anybody else chooses to bid on this location after them in this round, then they're going to have to increase that bid by at least 1 or more. So red will choose to take 3 credits from this location, that is 12, and place it on the private sector. Then after bidding, the player's turn is done and will pass to the next player. That player can choose to outbid that player by placing the exact same amount in the public sector location, or can choose to place any amount of meeples on the private sector location, thusly getting the credits and the reputation hopefully by the end of the round. Blue can go ahead and choose to take over red here, returning red's meeples to their HQ, and then they'll have to place at least 4 credits over onto the board here. So I'll move this 5 and replace it with a 1. Yellow will now have an option. Yellow can go ahead and choose to place meeples down, and they will on the private sector project. If you want, and you want to keep going with the round, as long as you don't have control of an area, and whenever you gain control, you'll place your little markers representing that you have control of the different public and private sector locations next to you, you won't be able to bid anymore because you already have a location. However, if you don't, you have 2 options. You can pass, or you can keep trying to outbid a player. If you don't have enough meeples, then you must pass. However, if you do, you have the option to go ahead and choose to do so. But it may or may not be worth it. So in this case with red can choose to outbid the yellow player by placing 4 meeples down to take over the private sector, thusly returning yellow to the HQ, or can choose to bid 2 meeples on the public sector, and if they do that, they're going to have to actually remove 5 tokens from this location, thusly netting them no currency except for the reputation at the end of the game. So in this case, red will choose to pass. When everybody passes, and you must pass if you already have a location, then you're going to go to the next step of the game. Determining winners. Well, the winners are the people who bid the most. And when that happens, you'll take the private sector and the currency along with it to the player. They will hide their currency somewhere next to their player board, take the private sector card and place it face down in front of their HQ, and then all of the meeples that are associated with that card will be placed on the card, which you'll hopefully be getting back throughout the game. With the public sector, it's a little different. The player who won will take the currency allotted to them based on that card, but players are going to have the option now to do a bit of a co-sponsorship bid. The player that is blue will go ahead and take their meeples along with the card, and then the players to the left and right of them will be able to bid secretly on joining them on this location. So for in this instance, red will bid 1 secretly and yellow will bid 2. And then you'll go ahead and reveal. Another thing to note too is that during this time, the player who wins the public project sector will have the opportunity to hide this little token and basically determine who the tiebreaker is using the left and right hands. So in this case, yellow won, and you'll go ahead and take this project, you'll hide it face down, you'll place your 2 blues that were there previously, and then because yellow bid 2, we'll go ahead and place their yellows there. After that, all of the different sectors have been completed. The last thing you're going to do is return workers to the HQ. So in this case here, if you have any workers here present on your board, you'll move them down onto your HQ area, which you can use for the next round. But in the first round, yet again, no dice. Finally, the last thing you're going to do is clean up. You're going to be taking these guys, flipping them over, and refreshing to begin the next round. And you'll play this game 10 rounds. And at the end of the 10th round, you're going to tally up your points. And the way you get points are basically the 2 different currencies. One is the credits and one is the reputation, which you can also gain from your player ability that you can use once a game and your character ability that is going to be used throughout the game, which will generally net you additional reputation. You'll calculate your credits and your reputation based on how many meeples you have on your HQ. Any of your private sectors, you'll flip them up and take any negative reputation losses, and of course your private sector, and you'll add up the ones on your left and right hand side, which means you're going to share with other players. If you have the lowest amount of reputation on the table, regardless of credits, you lose the game. However, if you have more than the lowest amount of reputation and the most credits, you win the game. The most important thing is to not be that person in last, but also you do want to have enough credits in order to solidify your victory in the game, reputation. Alright, so what did we think about reputation? Well, first and foremost, this is a bidding game. Your objective is to bid on public and private sectors, and you need to basically balance your resources. You're not ever going to get more than those 10 meeples or workers that you're using throughout the game, so you're going to have to be careful where and when you choose to spend them. Choosing to spend them too much on a public or private sector is going to only get you 1 back every turn. And if you got 10 dudes on there, you're basically stuck with getting 1 guy every turn, and you'll basically lose out on rounds, which can be pretty detrimental. So this game is all about balance. Another thing to note with this game is that you're going to have the 3 different locations which will net you guys back, and you want to kind of work with each player individually to basically net you more characters. So it's not really necessarily about them, as it is more about making sure that the characters are represented equally on the different locations. So you can get 3 guys back every turn, which will give you a higher bidding stance than any other player. Another thing too to keep note of that you have to kind of keep track of is how much reputation you have in comparison to everybody else. And because things are hidden, it's hard to remember. So you have to be careful. Did he actually get 5 reputation last round and I got -2? I need to come up 7 in order to be not the last player in the game now. And that plays a huge role. But if you are, or you know that you are not the lowest player in reputation, you have to have enough credits to win. So a player that might have just enough reputation to beat out the lowest player might have the most credits and win, even though the player with the highest reputation might be broke. And so that is also a balancing act in and of itself. Every single player has the 2 different things, the character and the CEO basically, and this one is kind of like the company that they're utilizing. This is like a 1-time per game use ability. They're very powerful, but very situational. Some are kind of always good, others can be just really good in certain situations. And then of course, the agendas on the characters. These are things that you get, you'll basically get reputation whenever you complete them on your turn, like win public sector projects with 2 or fewer credits. So if they only have 2 or fewer credits on the public sector, you can score 2 reputation every single time you do this. Thusly, this character earns a ton of reputation, but not a whole lot of credits. And so utilizing your character is going to be very important in the game. Another thing to note with this game here is you're going to need to keep track of who controls what specific public or private sector with these little guys here. A lot of times we had forgotten to use them just because we saw our characters on there and didn't really see a point to doing so, but you should keep note of that, along with, of course, the first player marker. Make sure that you move it every single round, because that first play in the game is always very vital in the round. You're the one that gets to decide how many credits move from the public to the private, or if you want to place on the private in hopes that everybody else bids on the public, which can happen, but generally speaking is not the first move that you're probably typically going to want to make. The artwork and graphic design for this game was not a favorite among us. It was not bad either. It had this kind of techie feel, which kind of was cool about it, but just the way the character design worked with the different little like logos and whatnot was kind of like boxy and whatnot. Some people in my group did like it, others didn't much care for it, and I was in the group that was like, it's okay. But the gameplay is very solid. If you like a game with a lot of choices, if you like a game that has a like worker management along with a bidding type style game, and of course it has a little bit of like a between two castles of Mad King Ludwig feel, where you're working together on public projects with the players to your left and right, and you do kind of want to work with them in certain ways, and you'll utilize that tie token more than you think. So when somebody else's, both the players are bidding on the public location with you, it can be very, very vital of which person you choose and when, and that is a nice little twist to the game as well. Each of the different little components in this game present a ton of different choices and a lot of imagination that you're going to have. You're going to need a bit of memory in this game too, if in order for you to win the game, you have to kind of keep track of reputation and of course credits among all players, and a lot of it is very secret, so be aware of that. Overall though, if you like a bidding game, a worker management game, something that's light, takes about 45 minutes to play, and can play 3 to 5 players, Reputation is not a bad choice. And in fact, we're going to play this game live on our stream next week, and you'll get a chance to see us play this and determine for yourself if you're interested. So even if you're down, you want to buy this game, you can go in the link in the description right now to do so. But if you're on the fence, you can go ahead and see us play the game and watch us have fun with it and determine then, and that's usually a really good indicator. But for us, a solid little bidding game, and I had a ton of fun playing it. Thank you guys for watching another Unfiltered Gamer board game review of the game Reputation by Ninja Star Games. If you're interested in picking up the game, like I said before, there is a link down below in the description for you to take a look at it on Kickstarter right now, today. You can also go ahead and take a look at our website, unfilteredgamer.com. Blog posts, giveaways, Kickstarter lists, and more. We got reviews on there that are even separate from the videos that you see here with different games. You can also go ahead and join us on Patreon. For $1 a month, it helps support us on our live streams, create more content, upgrade a new camera. Our camera's getting kind of old here. And of course, if you'd like, you can take a look at moonshowgame.com. It's my wife's game. We're finishing the manufacturing right now, and it's going to be coming out very, very soon. We're excited to give you guys a little bit more updates this week, showing you guys what has been created and where we are in the process. Otherwise, guys, that's pretty much it. And as always, I look forward to creating the best corporation and having the most reputation without you.